In the realm of OMG, he's just like me being a trend, you'd probably cringe a little if I said I loved Berserk so much because I relate heavily to guts. A lot of people do, but some people believe you should like Berserk because it's not a pussy-footed pansy manga. It's something not bright and happy. Maybe I should like it because every 20 chapters Mira uses a threat of no consent on a female character. Maybe I should like it because of the toxicity and embrace that. Maybe the people who think this should go embrace the elephant's foot, but my silly ad hominems aside, some people just misunderstand Berserk. Berserk is at its core a story of one man struggling against fate to live his dream, to be happy. I love it so much because, in a sense, I am a man living a similar story. My family was generations of drug addicts and criminals. It was promised to me the day that I was born that I would fall and fail like they all had. All I wanted or desired in the way of my dreams and happiness was deemed impossible, and I was told that I may as well just give up now. But I didn't give up, no matter how slim the odds were. I refused, and now I can safely say as the first member of my family to make it to 19 with a high school diploma, no child, no drug addiction, and no criminal charges, that I stood up to the fate promised to me at my birth and spat in its face before walking away. A lot of people like Berserk for very similar reasons. For the indomitable human spirit. Guts is flawed and he's human, but he never gives up. I know that as I continue to chase the impossibilities of this life vowed to never be mine, that at the very least, there's a story similar to mine in facing something so much bigger than yourself, that if Guts can keep fighting and going, maybe I can too. That whole paragraph probably just made several thousand people die from how corny it was, but this is what makes media and stories so important to us. We relate to them. Watching Superman fight people gets boring so absurdly fast that they have to make Clark an extremely moral and human character so the stories aren't completely boring. Chainsaw Man's awesome character design and new feel helped the manga, but it was a very human story about dreaming of a better life, and that's what makes Denji a compelling character, and his narrative fun to read. It comes back to philosophy. People have philosophy, and stories as an extension of human experiences have philosophies themselves, and this takes us back to Berserk. Berserk and Nietzsche go hand in hand. One of the biggest focuses of Nietzsche's philosophies was of the power of will, human will, and this is reflected in Berserk. Griffith's idea of a friend comes from Nietzsche. Griffith and Guts themselves are an Apollonian and Dionysian pair, Griffith being the absolute of evil and deception, Guts being the force of good and honesty. Most people don't care about the philosophy of stories, though. Most people seem to not cherish a story for what it really is in this new anti-intellectual age we find ourselves in. A massive and hilarious twist of fate, considering that we now live in an era where all of humanity's knowledge is in the palm of your hand. But people not caring to understand means that Berserk can be easily misunderstood or written off for its astronomical amounts of edge at the start. But more importantly, more dangerously, philosophy can be written off. Really, almost anything can be written off. The Hanseatic League was a legendary group focused on the sale of high-quality salted foods. Nordic members would catch the fish. Lower European members would bring the salt, and they would make salt fish to then sell for an absurd amount of profit. This group was so high quality there's a myth out there that the word sterling, a word referring to quality, comes from Easterling, which is what the Hanseatic sailors were referred to when they came to port to sell their fish. Of course, after a few centuries, the League started to suck major dick, and it failed. I feel like Vice is kind of a modern-day Hanseatic League, with some massive accelerationism applied. They used to be cool, and then they sold out their stuff, and, well, it just got really bad, and still to this day it's pretty crusty. But it was on their website I began reading an inspiration to this essay. Gym bros more likely to be right-wing assholes, science confirms. This article is genuinely, there's no other way to put it, dog shit. It's written in a way that more so attacks people who go to the gym than addressing the study. And like the poor guy no one liked or talked to in high school, it tries so hard to be funny that it actively undermines itself. The article lacks message and intent beyond muscly guys or pricks, which is sad because it doesn't actually effectively communicate the findings of the study, which is that affluent male gym goers are less likely to be egalitarian. Of course, 5 years ago when that article was written, researchers couldn't tell if it was even really correlated. Flash forward to 2022, and bounce to another somewhat more respected journal, The Guardian's article from March of this year, Fascist Fitness, How the Far Right is Recruiting with Online Gym Groups. There still isn't a quantifiable answer, but I have a theory that can be applied as a gym goer myself. I'm not a Nazi, so what the hell is going on here? The gym is physical strain and exertion. It's hard, and most people don't take joy in hard things, so most people don't do them. A lot of people love to talk about what they want, but they hate to reach for it because to reach for more than what you have is to suffer and struggle until you get to it or you give up. For this reason, most people don't go to the gym, they don't pursue their actual dreams. Society's aversion to suffering, even if it is out of passion or love, is a major detriment. The average person values comforts over desires. Going to the gym is not something you do once or something that you finish. You don't suffer once and you're done. You suffer repeatedly for months at an agonizingly slow pace to make progress. Desire becomes motivation. Motivation becomes discipline if you want it bad enough. But the desire that starts all of this comes from two places. The desire of appearance. Growing up, I was fat. It's in my genetics. My biological father is a land whale. My mom is chubby. My default state combined with a poor diet meant I was predisposed to being big. I hated it. I hated my body with a passion. So as soon as I had the means, I started going to the gym consistently. I started in March of this year, and would go once a week. In mid-July, I kicked that up to every day I was off. I love going to the gym and I hate missing out, but the start of my passion was to finally not have 40 pounds of beer belly when I don't drink and fat tits when I'm a man. I've upgraded from fat fuck to dad bod and intend to keep going until I'm satisfied before just working on maintaining my body and health. This is one of the two biggest reasons people go to the gym, the desire to just look good. The second reason is the desire of strength. The other reason for going is out of an insecurity around strength and perception. The perception of someone as small and weak can mess with their esteem, so they start pumping iron to become big and strong instead. Their insecurity becomes a hunger for power. Sound familiar? Now, before I get into this next segment, if you're going to whine about it, go whine about it to the researchers responsible for finding out the things I'm about to mention. Not me. Thanks. It's pretty stupid when someone compares the modern-day world to George Orwell's 1984. For the most part, I'd argue the dystopia you could compare us to in a modern interpretation is Brave New World. But one crucial bit of 1984 has terrifyingly leaped out of the page. The art of doublespeak, the ability to contradict yourself with such perfect cognitive dissonance that you don't even recognize it. This is a unique and mostly conservative skill. Conservatism, Christofascism, and fascism in general are all built off of this skill and crippling insecurity in their modern interpretations. Conservatives routinely mock snowflake liberals, but studies show that conservatives have a larger amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fear response, meaning that, in general, conservatives tend to respond more so with emotions than logic. They mock the dumb lefties, but studies prove that conservatives on average have lower intelligence across the board with a special and distinct lack of application in emotion and logic. Lauren Boebert, an American politician, accuses many others of being child groomers. She herself, at 17, was groomed by her child sex offender husband. Literally too many politicians to count are homophobic, and then they engage in frequent and rampant sex with men. The entire American Republican Party's claim of being better at economics is in fact complete bullshit, and their constant accusations that the Democrats hurt your wallet are quantifiably false. Weak boys feel poorly about themselves or are bullied, so they get strong just to turn around and make sure the next generation of weak boys feels how they did, instead of ever stopping the source of pain. All of this is a symptom of the concerning and growing anti-intellectual movement in the West. As I speak, the majority of people who lean right-wing and watch this video just got really upset, and a hilariously dense portion of them are about to make an excellent proof of concept by leaving a comment to tell me just how hurt their feelings are. To which I have to say, facts don't care about your feelings, nerd. L plus ratio plus didn't ask plus no bitches. So where exactly are the origins of the Western anti-intellectual movement? Anti-intellectualism isn't new to America or the West. It's actually one of America's core tenets. Early Americans often put the everyman over the expert. Davy Crockett and Henry Adams were the idols, not some smart man or learned person. It wasn't itself anti-intellectual, but it opened the door. Another source of the door being left open was the religion America was founded on. Superstition and often an outright fear of science in the face of someone's God made intellectual pursuits even less of a thing to be desired. When America had its own industrial revolution, once again the intellectual found themselves seen as the lesser. Only the industrious and wealthy men were perceived as powerful and seen as worthwhile. Then came the wealth disparity. Intellectuals were often affluent because you have to have time to learn, and if you're spending your time working, well, you can't be learning, can you? The average American is not affluent, and was not affluent. So, of course, politicians could sow division by calling out the quote unquote elite to get the average American to vote for them. The most brutal nail in the coffin was the 24-hour news cycle. Being informed itself was most often done by the layperson with the news. Companies like CNN, however, deciding that some events happening weren't enough, began looking for the most dramatic news happening everywhere all at once. It became, at best, an overload of info people would be hard-pressed to sort through, and at worst, a jet stream of over-dramatized events that didn't exactly hold importance. The quality of journalism overall has suffered a huge blow. Good pieces used to be the standard, but now I have to sort through dozens of articles to find one that isn't clickbait trash. Headlines making mountains out of molehills are the norm. Bloated and overdone third-grade quality pieces about literally anything someone with mild fame says or does are everywhere. And as if some D-grade sports commentator was yelling from your closet while you have sex, any statement that can be taken as slightly aggressive is slapped with some annoying "Billy Bob slams blank" or "Billy Bob calls out blank" headline, making even the most benign statements a point of conflict. Now, of course, you might be wondering, well, this is in America. What does this have to do with the West? America, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you view it, has had the most successful shipping of culture ever done. It's a tactic that Japan is using right now to maintain longevity in the social sphere and the economic sphere, is by shipping pieces of your culture to other nations where they will be loved and enjoyed. America did this so well that most people don't even recognize American culture that is seeped into their own homeland. American culture is massively influential, and it unfortunately affects everyone, which means that as American culture declines, well, a lot of the West has to reevaluate some things. With that little side note out of the way, the dumbing down and commodification of facts, knowledge itself being seen as cheap and its presentation having corners cut, has made knowledge be seen as even less. It had deep ramifications, and the pandemic showed this. Knowledge itself has become the topic of political debate, and art, always the victim of those who victimize themselves, is one of the first things to be assaulted and attacked, which finally takes us back to the misunderstanding of Nietzsche and Berserk. Nietzsche's philosophies are most often interpreted into nihilism. Nihilism itself is one of the most misunderstood things ever, the philosophy that nothing has meaning. People take this philosophy and misunderstand it to justify hedonism and self-destruction, the exact opposite of what Nietzsche wanted for the average person. Nietzsche believed that if there was no meaning, you could make one for yourself. Nihilism is not the mentality of the depressive, it is the philosophy of the one who determines their own fate and who, through will and passion, can overcome anything and find a happy life filled with meaning. And who embodies that fight better than Guts? Berserk has always had a damn near impossible time being properly creatively addressed and adapted into anime. The 97 animation, which still remains one of the best attempts, leans a bit much into the undoubtedly toxic masculinity found within Berserk. The new animes and movies, they certainly are, that much is certain. Berserk's story of a man struggling against something so much more than him, of course, is misattributed with one astoundingly idiotic argument. Griffith did nothing wrong. It started as a meme, a joke based off of a similar edge-riddled joke. Hitler did nothing wrong, because, of course, some people take jokes as reality, and what we pretend to be often becomes who we are, so soon some people started unironically believing and arguing this. The argument starts like this. After the rescue, Griffith is left disabled and inept. His dreams, the things he valued the most, are forever out of reach for him. In the state he's in, he is doomed to forever sit and be silent and watch all that was his dissolve. If you were in his situation and offered a second chance at the cost of all of your friends, would you not sacrifice them all? The distinct problem with this, though, is that Griffith is a bona fide narcissist. Man's only version of love is viewed through the twisted lens of ownership, and by the time Griffith realizes how much he cared for Guts, he also realizes that his pursuit of his dreams has been built on a mountain of corpses and that he is not a good man, that he is evil, and so he chooses to embrace serving the very idea of evil itself, dooming all of those who formerly served him and his one friend. He chooses to use them all as objects, and again, to emphasize how fucking evil he is, he does that to Casca as soon as he comes back to the physical plane, a severing of ties to any idea of good his former self had, becoming his very worst qualities. Griffith apologists brush over that with Griffith, of course, and they move to the stopping of Ganishka, a demon who tries to conquer the world. Of course, Ganishka wouldn't have started that little invasion so soon had Griffith not crippled the royalty of Midland by doing a little bit of trolling. Statutory rape. Griffith also creates Falconia, the realization of his dream to be king, and a safe haven to all after the astral and real planes become one. The issue is that those demons would have never gotten out and started killing literally everyone if not for, you guessed it, Griffith fusing the astral and real planes into one. The other issue is Falconia being a quote-unquote good thing he's done is that it's held together by Griffith and his ego. If there is no Griffith to lead these people, no demigod to be a false messiah, it falls apart and the demons can take the last hold of humanity as well. Griffith dooms all who served him, lives to spite his former best friend, dooms humanity and sells them a duct tape fix that works for now. But he did nothing wrong. The joke turned to actual discussion point, has its roots in fascism, and the rise of anti-intellectualism in the modern era.
Okay, so we did it. I am recording this little outro after I edit the rest of the video. I recorded this in fucking October. That's right, October. Um, and I just hadn't had the time to sit down and edit it the way that I wanted to. And I finally made the time and got it done, and I'm very proud of it. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video and you made it this far, go ahead and just subscribe. It's completely free, helps me reach my dreams. You can undo it later. You watched me talk about Berserk and the international geopolitical implications of the rise of the anti-intellectual movement in the West for 20 minutes, damn near. You're clearly interested, or autoplay happened and you're just listening to this, or you're asleep. In which case, it's been 5 years. It's a coma. Wake up. Your family misses you. Wake up, dude. Um, as always, thank you to the patrons who are on screen now. Thanks to you for watching, and until next time, have a great time. Memento mori.